Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the paper talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford. I don't know if you can see that. It's freezing. I'm absolutely brassic. Straight into the United news. Latest rumours doing the rounds this morning. Well, say doing the rounds. There's one or two papers that have had this. Christian Eriksen from Inter Milan could be coming to Manchester United. Now, I think when I read that, I was like, really? This is apparently originated from Football Italia, who claim that Christian Eriksen, Antonio Conte, could be interested in Eriksen as some sort of swap deal for Fred. He's been linked with us, I mean, I take that with a massive pinch of salt. I think the idea that we bring in another, an attacking midfielder really, Christian Eriksen, someone in the sort of similar vein to the likes of Donny van der Beek maybe, or Bruno Fernandes, that type of player. And we're going to bring in another one. And also Fred, who Ole Gunnar Solskjaer obviously rates. He plays him a lot. Going the other way, don't really see that happening. That's a rumour that's doing the rounds. Like I said, originated in Italy. One to keep an eye on, but I'm taking that with a massive pinch of salt because I don't see Fred going anywhere. I don't see Christian Eriksen coming in. I don't see United going for another midfielder at the minute. Certainly not one like Christian Eriksen, who I think has played 4 times this season for Inter Milan. So he's not really getting a game for Inter. And it's not that way round. It doesn't work like that. We don't take Inter's rejects. They take ours. So let's have it right. I don't really think that one's happening. But it's not my job to create stories. It's my job to tell you about the stories that are doing the rounds. And that's one of them. So keep an eye on it. But I'd be hugely surprised if we see Christian Eriksen in a Manchester United shirt anytime soon. And I'll be equally surprised if we see Fred in an Inter Milan shirt anytime soon, or international, as I should say. Another story doing the rounds this morning is that Upamecano could have a final decision to make, as United and Liverpool, the Scousers as well, are in for him. There's obviously loads of interest in the RB Leipzig defender. United have been linked with him for at least 6 months, if not a little bit longer. Liverpool also linked with him. There's a release clause that I think kicks in next summer. So there's talk that clubs are going to look to get him in as soon as possible. United, one of those clubs that have been linked with him, and now apparently Liverpool are in for him as well. And it says here in the reports that he previously had a £54 million release clause at Leipzig, but his new deal has a vastly reduced buyout clause set at £36 million. Even if it's £54 million, I don't care. Upamecano is a hugely talented defender. People may look at him, and I know people are quite reactionary, believe it or not, and go, oh, is he all that? Upamecano, he didn't do that well when we played Leipzig. Listen, he's a massively talented defender. We've had this problem with our centre-backs for a little while now, where we can't seem to settle on who the best partner for Harry Maguire is. Now, Victor Lindelof, who I think has been playing quite well recently, is probably the number one choice of partner Harry Maguire. But Axel Tuanzebe's been knocking on the door. Eric Bailly's is still being sort of put in and out of the team, and people still were urging Ollie to give him a chance. Then the Spurs game happened and everyone was like, oh, hang on a minute, maybe injuries aren't his only problem, maybe he's not quite as good as we all hope. Upamecano, you'd expect him to come straight into that team, answer those questions, because we know that Harry Maguire's not going anywhere. He's not going to get dropped. He's an £80 million defender that this manager bought, and he also made captain. So when you buy a player for £80 million and make captain, you don't then drop him a year later, because it makes you look very, very silly, and also undermines any idea that you can go to the board and say, give me lots of money to spend on more players, when the players you've bought and spent a lot of money on, you're not playing. So Upamecano to United makes sense. We can't just base our transfer strategy on what other teams are going to do when they want a player. We did that a little bit with Alexis Sanchez when City wanted him and we got in there first, or paid more money, and looked like that happened with that one. But we have been linked with Upamecano. Now, apparently this story's originated from Jan Åge Fjørtoft, who sort of reinvented himself a little bit, Fjørtoft. He was a striker who played for Swindon Town many years ago. Did okay, even though they got relegated. Now he's sort of reinvented himself as some sort of in-the-know ITK transfer guru. Don't really think he is. Gets some things right, gets a lot of things wrong. Seems to more or less just agree with the ITKs and jump on the back of that. Anyway, he's saying that this is what's going to happen. He's saying that we're following him closely. Lots of people know that we've been into Upamecano, so it's not exactly the most insightful revelation. Again, we keep an eye on that. I would not be surprised if United did go in for him, though, because we have been linked with him quite heavily. Apparently, he was on that wish list that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had in the summer. Remember that wish list that featured the likes of Jack Grealish, the likes of Jadon Sancho, the likes of Upamecano? Yes, he was on that list. Did we get any of them? No, we didn't. So hopefully, if we do go in for him next time, we can get him and bring him here to Old Trafford, especially if Liverpool are in for him, because it pains me to say it, but if he goes there, it's only going to strengthen them. They've already strengthened this summer. They brought in the likes of, I'm not going to make it all about them, but they brought in the likes of Thiago Alcantara and obviously Diogo Jota, who's doing really well. So them strengthening even more makes it more difficult for us to catch them, obviously. So I would love to see Upamecano here. We'll wait and see whether that happens or not. One to keep an eye on, but certainly seems to be a little fire to that smoke. Another transfer story this morning is on outgoings. Dean Henderson could be going out on loan in January. Apparently he's unhappy that he's coming, and he hasn't really taken the number one spot from David De Gea, who's having a really good season this season so far, almost back to his best. So Dean Henderson could be moving on in January on loan. There's a couple of reports here from the papers. A couple of papers have picked this up. I think I read it in the Metro. Again, it's not the most reliable source, but it is a story, so I'm going to tell you about it. They're saying that he's a little bit sort of disheartened that he's not been able to get in there, and sees that he isn't going to have the number one spot anytime soon, so could look for a loan move in January. He was at Sheffield United, of course, last season, had a fantastic season with them. They're having a bit of a shocker this season. Don't know if he'll end up going back there, but he could end up going out the door in January. I don't know if he will, though, because we know that Sergio Romero is looking for a move. I don't know, he's probably training with the reserves. He's having a bit of a nightmare time of it, and his missus is very upset. Have you seen some of her social media posts? Dean Henderson has been getting a chance in the Carabao Cup. I know you don't want to just play in the Carabao Cup, but it seems a little bit premature that you're going to come back in the summer, sign a new deal, which he did, and then all of a sudden a couple of months later saying, well, I've not got a chance now, that's it, I'm off in January. Because you don't know. I mean, David De Gea's form over the last 2 years has been very up and down. At the moment, it's up. If it was to go down again, then maybe Ollie would turn to Dean Henderson. So, again, I know I keep repeating myself, but I always have to say this because it's true. Just want to keep your eye on, see what happens with it. If Dean Henderson does go anywhere, then obviously we'll let you know. You'll find out straight away because it'll be everywhere. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does stick around in January, because I think long term, he's only 22. Long term, he'll want to be Manchester United keeper. And loan moves are all well and good, but if you are second choice and you've got a goalkeeper in front of you who, yes, he's playing well at the minute, but has had some form issues of late, then it does seem a little bit foolhardy to just say, right, I'm going out on loan again. If I was Dean Henderson, I'd stick around. Another transfer rumour in outgoings doing the rounds is that Daniel James is wanted by Everton. Now, this was sort of gathering a little bit of momentum in the summer. There was talk that Everton were looking at him, never really got anywhere. Apparently, they wanted to come back in for him in January, but United are blocking that move. They're saying, no, you can't have him, we're not going to sell him. Now, we know that Daniel James isn't everyone's most popular player. A lot of people don't think he's good enough. I've always said that I think you should give him a little bit more time, give him to the end of the season. If at the end of the season we're still having these conversations about whether it's a bit, it's been a step up too big for him, whether he isn't really up to it, then yeah, he can move on. But I wouldn't just write him off just yet. I know that most people disagree with that idea, but that's just where I'm coming from. But apparently Everton are looking at him. They think he could be a useful addition to their squad. United aren't up for it though, and I don't blame United, to be honest with you, because what we're going to get for Daniel James, honestly, off Everton, you're not going to get loads of sort of, life-changing money that's going to enable us to go out and buy Jadon Sancho. So it's not like they're ever going to come in and go, here, here's £100 million for Daniel James. So money-wise, I know this is Glazonomics, but it doesn't really make much sense. Also, Everton are above us in the table. Now, you may argue, well, Daniel James doesn't really improve him. It improves the squad. Getting a player in, he's always going to improve this, who's got Premier League experience and who hasn't been the disaster everyone claims he has been. It improves their squad, even if it's only just a little bit. We don't want to improve the teams above us by selling them our players. I think we should give Daniel James a chance. If in the summer, again, like I said, we're still having these conversations, then yeah, maybe you can look at it and go, Daniel James hasn't really worked out. He can go to Everton or somewhere else. Don't forget, Everton also were interested in Sergio Romero. And I'm glad they didn't get him, to be honest with you, because Jordan Pickford, he's had his issues this season. I think Sergio Romero's a very good keeper. Had he gone to Everton, then, that just strengthens them, and maybe they'd be even higher than 7th, or come the end of the season, you could be having a scenario where Everton finish in the top 4 and Manchester United don't, and Sergio Romero's played a big part of that. Do I see the same thing happen with Dan James? Maybe, maybe not, but I wouldn't look to sell one of our players to one of our Premier League rivals. And let's face facts, at the minute, Everton are one of our rivals because we're not challenging at the very top at the minute, which we're sort of stuck in mid-table. Yes, we can kick on. Yes, it's still early doors, but I wouldn't go selling players to those teams above us, even if it is Everton, who in the past we've probably looked down on. So they're the transfer rumours doing their round. Christian Eriksen, don't see that happening. Upamecano, probably sometime soon. Dean Henderson, going out the other way, maybe. Daniel James going out the other way, doubtful. So make sure to check out what else we've got coming up on Stretford Paddock. We'll have Howson's Brew. We've got the Premier League P-Take with Joe Smith and Adam McCullough. We'll also be previewing the game against Istanbul. Bazek Sahir, did I get that right? Probably not. I know you're all going to be in the comments saying I've butchered yet another name with my pronunciation. Apologies to all you Istanbul fans that are out there. But yes, we'll have the preview for that. And also tomorrow for the game, we'll have the watch along, we'll have the fan cams, we'll have all that stuff as well. Also on Howson's Brew today, we've got a very special guest, an absolute legend of the channel, you'll know what I mean. Don't care, I just want anyone but David Moyes. That'll give you a little bit of a clue. And also this week we'll have the Tier 1 podcast, Tier 1 Transfer podcast, where we'll be speaking to an absolute Tier 1 legend. So make sure you keep checking out Stretford Paddock, because we've got you covered. I've been Jay. This has been the Paper Talk outside Old Trafford. It's still freezing. Poor cameraman Cal is shaking. So we'll wrap it up. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.